Hey, what's up, nerds? It's Shane with Guys at Magic, and we're back. We're doing another $100 upgrade, and today I have Hunter. Say what's up, bud?
What up?
We've already seen David and Steven's awesome upgrade, but we've got yours now. Call for backup. Talk a little bit about the deck and what you're doing with it, bud.
So Call for Backup is a Naya deck that revolves all around +1/+1 counters. I've never done one of those upgrades
Whoa,
before.
this is new
Yeah,
for you.
it is kind of new for me. If you guys haven't caught that, if you go back and look at any of the +1/+1 counters for the precons, I'm usually always the one that does it.
It's
So
you.
I just got the luck of the draw because we all kind of just randomize what decks we upgrade, and I got this one. So I want to talk about a little bit of the face commander. The face commander is Bright Palm Soul Awakener. It is a red, a green, and a white for a 4/3 legendary creature, Fox Shaman. It has backup 1. In case you don't remember, the new ability, backup, says when this creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. If that's another creature, it gains the following ability until end of turn. The following ability says whenever this creature attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature. That creature can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less this turn. Well, that is a very strong card. It kind of just pumps up the team or just
Yeah.
pumps up one guy really powerful and swings in. Hopefully, your opponents have a creature that has a power of 2 or less to get in for free.
Mm.
But we are actually going to go ahead on the route of Shalai and Hallar. That is the other commander that can helm the deck. And what they are is one, a red, a green, and a white for a 3/3 legendary creature, Angel Elf. It has flying and vigilance, and it says whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, July and Halar deals that much damage to target opponent. So every time we put counters on all of our creatures, we're just pinging our opponents for however much damage per counter.
Dude, I smell some sort of combo in your future.
Shenanigans could be
Yeah.
ensuing. But you kind of hinted at it. There is a little bit of a combo in here. If you don't like doing the combo route, especially when you have the card right here in the command zone, I'm keeping this deck friendly enough where you can just swap them out, Bright Palm or Shalai and Halar. Whatever one you want to helm this deck, go ahead. But for the purpose of this video, I am doing Shalai and Halar.
Right on, bro. Well, without wasting any time, want to jump into some of the new cards you're adding and see what you're doing to beef up this deck?
Absolutely. Let's jump straight into the additions. So first and foremost, every time I make a brand new deck, I like to look at the set that the deck came from, see if there's any really cool cards that kind of fit right in. And funnily enough, we got 3 cards that fit perfectly, all of them green.
Hmm.
The first one is Cami of Whispered Hopes. Cami of Whispered Hopes is 2 and a green for a 1/1 creature spirit. It says if one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a permanent you control, that many +1/+1 counters are put on that permanent instead. And you can also tap Cami of Whispered Hopes to add X mana of any one color where X is Cami of Whispered Hopes power. So not only is this kind of like a Hardened Scales, but it's also a mana dork.
2 for 1, dude. It's a good card
2
for
for
you.
1. Yeah, and it's uncommon too, so it's
Damn. So it's gonna be cheap?
easy to get your hands on.
Yep.
Absolutely. The other green card I'm adding is the Ozolith. Not just the Ozolith, but Ozolith the Shattered Spire. Ozolith the Shattered Spire is 1 and a green for a legendary artifact. It says if one or more +1/+1 counters will be put on an artifact or creature you control, that many +1/+1 counters are put on it instead. It also has another ability. We can pay 1 and a green and tap it, put a +1/+1 counter on target artifact or creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. It's got cycling of 2. So
I'm seeing a pattern, dude.
once again, we have Hardened Scales on another card. And not only that, but this one actually kind of gives 2 +1/+1 counters immediately
Damn.
with the ability.
You're gonna be going
Yeah.
crazy with the counters, dude.
That's what I'm trying to do. And all the counters that we add on our creatures, we're pinging our opponents. The last card is Tribute to the World Tree. Tribute to the World Tree is 3 green mana for an enchantment. It says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. A little bit of card draw or a little bit of counters.
Yeah, that's very strong for your deck, dude. I feel like you always
Absolutely.
find really good cards that go with counters. You are the counter guy for that, you know?
I am the counter guy. Yeah, we've seen this in the past. But yeah, these 3 cards, as soon as I saw them spoiled, I was like, those are going in the deck. So very excited for these new ones.
Well, those are from the new set. Do you have anything creature related from other sets you're looking at?
I certainly do. And this is where the counters start going crazy. The creatures, Halana and Elena, partners. Halana and Elena partners is 2, a red and a green for a 2/3 legendary creature human ranger. It's got first strike and reach, and it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, put X +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control, where X is Halana and Elena's power. That creature gains haste until end of turn. So, this is a very powerful legendary. I like this card a lot, especially if it has more +1/+1 counters on it. You're just going to be pumping up a brand new creature that comes in onto the battlefield with however much power, and it gains haste immediately. So that's awesome.
That that haste is ridiculous, dude.
Oh yeah, coming in swinging in hot. Another card that does some fun stuff on combat is Luminarch Aspirant. Luminarch Aspirant is 1 and a white for a 1/1 creature human cleric. It says at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. This is a very powerful card when it was at standard, and I think it remains powerful enough to go into the deck.
Very much so. It was a menace. I'm sure it's going to be a menace in our games going forward.
Oh yeah, if I have any of those other hardened scaled-ish cards,
Just get
we're
more.
making a lot of counters,
Yep, and we're getting hit in the face. Love it.
and you're getting hit in the face for every counter. Scavenging Ooze is 1 and a green for a 2/2 creature ooze. I can pay a green to exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, put a +1/+1 counter on Scavenging Ooze, and you gain 1 life. Not only is this putting on counters for every creature card, but in case our opponents are doing some kind of graveyard shenanigans, we're exiling all their cards out of the graveyard.
Yeah, and it's life gain for you.
It is a bit of life gain. So get them gone with Scavenging Ooze.
Get them gone, dude. Well, I like those creatures. Are there any other creatures we're looking at here?
We sure are. These ones don't necessarily put on counters, but they really synergize with counters themselves. The first one, Evolution Sage. Evolution Sage is 2 and a green for a 3/2 creature elf druid. It says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, proliferate. Every time a land comes in, we're just adding however many counters to all of our creatures that already have them.
In a counters deck, you're going to proliferate, and if you have the things that double them or give you more, this is going to go nuts in your deck, dude.
It's going to go nuts, and if my commander's out on the field, we are pinging whatever opponent we want in the
Yeah,
face.
you're turning into like an aristocrats deck. What the hell?
Ping, 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 ping. I'm going to be the little guy that just starts poking you guys with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage at a turn.
I hate that. I hate that.
Get ready. Kadama of the West Tree is another one that's going in here. 2 and a green for a 3/3 legendary creature spirit. It's got reach. It says modified creatures you control have trample. And whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle. Kadama of the West Tree. Modified creatures include +1/+1 counters. So all of our +1/+1 counter creatures now have trample, and when they deal damage, we're ramping.
Dude, and if you have Evolution Stage on the field, whoa.
Whoa, we are doing a lot of stuff.
That is a lot of triggers to forget, Hunter.
It's going to be great, man. We're going to be proliferating. We're going to be ramping. We're going to be proliferating and just going crazy with counters.
Well, we saw some cool creatures in green, white, all those fun colors. What are we going to do to win the game, Hunter?
Yeah, so like I said, the commander we're using is Shalai and Hallar. They win the game with one of these creatures just on the field, essentially. The first one is the Red Terror. It is 3 and a red for a 4/3 legendary creature Tyrannid. It says whenever a red source you control deals damage to 1 or more permanents and or players, put a +1/+1 counter on the Red Terror. So, if our commander comes down turn 4, we put this down the next turn. We swing in at one opponent with our commander. This just goes infinite immediately because we deal damage from a red source. It gets a counter. Our commander says ping someone. When it pings someone, it gets a counter. Blah, 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 blah.
You gotta love 2-card combos, bud.
Yep. Like I said, if you don't want to go the combo route, these cards are still amazing in the 99 of a counter deck regardless. But yeah, the other one is War Elemental. 3 red mana for a 1/1 creature elemental. When War Elemental comes into play, sacrifice it unless an opponent was dealt damage this turn. So you got to make sure you deal damage before this card comes down. And whenever damage is dealt to an opponent, put that many 1/1 counters on War Elemental. Same situation. We deal damage. This gets counter. We deal damage. This gets counter. Infinitely, we win the game.
That is infinite fun, bud. No, I hate that.
Infinite fun. The
That's
Red
gonna be
Terror
so
and War.
annoying, dude.
Yeah. The Red Terror and War Elemental. Really good cards in Shalai and Hallar. Go crazy.
Yeah. So you showed us the go crazy, and we saw some creatures. What about some spells we're putting in this deck?
Yeah, some other spells that I'm putting in this deck. We really didn't have like any board wipes in this deck. And I was like, that seems crazy. So we're throwing in Blasphemous Act. Blasphemous Act is 8 in a red for a sorcery. It costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. It deals 13 damage to each creature. So one of the best board wipes in EDH. But think about this for a second. If our creatures are massive with counters, there is a very, very slim chance that 13 damage doesn't kill our creatures. So that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be kind of like a win more button, but I do see it, and I'm already not enjoying it.
Hey man, wipe everybody else's board, keep your giant creatures.
That's
Seems good
true.
to me.
Yeah, no, it seems great to me.
The other card I wanted to throw in here is just Silk Guard. Silk Guard is just X and a green for an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to X target creatures you control. Auras, equipment, and modified creatures you control gain hexproof until end of turn. So not only are we just throwing on counters to however many creatures we want, but they're protected with hexproof.
Yeah, that's really good protection. Damn.
Yes, it is.
I like that card.
It's a good one.
So what about some artifacts, dude? Getting any artifacts in here?
Oh, we certainly are. We're getting in some little bit of mana rocks with Felwar Stone and Talus of Unity. They both cost 2 mana. Felwar Stone, you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color that would a land an opponent could produce. And Talisman of Unity, you can tap it to add a colorless, or you can tap it to add a green or white, and it deals 1 damage to you. I felt like this deck was lacking these 2 cards, so threw them in here as a little bit of extra ramp. And the final artifact that we're throwing in here is the Ozolith itself, the original big boy. It is 1 generic mana for a legendary artifact. It says whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. So say a board wipe did happen and we put all of the counters onto the Ozolith. Let's say there was like 15 counters on multiple creatures just scattered throughout. So 15 counters go onto the Ozolith. And then our commander comes back, and then the Ozolith says, we're going to put all the counters onto the creature that's on the field. Well, guess what? That's 15 damage coming out of an opponent. So, pretty cool.
I think I've seen you put this card in almost every Counters Matter deck, and I can see why.
Yeah, it is a very important card on Counters Matter because it keeps the counters around.
It's like it cares about counters, bro.
It does. It really does.
I like the artifacts, but do you got any enchantments for me?
I certainly do. We got 4 of them. First one, I've been saying it over and over, Hardened Scales, which is 1 green mana for enchantment. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a creature you control, that many +1/+1/+1 counters are put on it instead. This is a staple in every counters deck.
Very straightforward.
It's going into the deck. Another one that's really important, I would always say, is Cathar's Crusade. This always goes in my decks. This is 3 and 2 white for an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So not only does the creature entering get a counter, but your entire team does as well. Rhythm of the Wild is 1, a red and a green for enchantment. Creature spells you control can't be countered, and non-token creatures you control have Riot. What is Riot? Well, they enter the battlefield with your choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste. So say your creature's already coming in with counters, give it haste, swing in immediately.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and it can't be countered, so it's always fun.
Fantastic.
And the final enchantment we are adding into the deck is All Will Be One. All Will Be One is 3 and 2 red for an enchantment that says whenever you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, All Will Be One deals that much damage to target opponent, creature and opponent controls, or planeswalker and opponent controls. Basically, this enchantment is our commander. So it's just doubling up on that effect. Say we don't have our commander out, we have the Red Terror out with this card. That's an automatic win as well.
Yeah, well, it's your commander that can now target anything. Creature,
That is true. This is our
planeswalker.
commander that can target creatures if we need it to, or planeswalkers if we needed to.
Yeah.
It's just going to go crazy with counters.
Yep. That is a great addition. And I
Mhm.
have the oil slick if you want it, bud.
All will be one. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, and I guess just to round this out, did you do any changes to the lands?
Yeah, I just added a couple lands. We just added 3. First one, Jetmir's Garden. That is a land that can tap for a red, green, or white. It does enter the battlefield tapped, and it does have cycling of 3. So if you had it late game, you just want to get a new card, you can toss it away. But it's a great, great card. And the other 2 lands that I added is Bountiful Promenade and Spire Garden. Those are the lands that enter tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. Guess what? We are going to be playing Commander, so we're going to have 3 opponents, so they won't come in tapped. I added these 2 because they tap for green. We do have a lot of green in the deck. So Bountiful Promenade taps for a green or a white. Spire Garden taps for a red or a green.
Pretty solid, dude. So that's your additions summed up.
That is all of my additions in the deck. I am
Oof.
very, very excited about this deck.
Well, it looks like you've once again put together a very mean counters deck. And now we get to do the part that you love, we all love. For the folks at home, can you just kind of talk about what you're getting rid of to add all those amazing additions?
Yeah, so the cuts are coming. We are getting rid of quite the amount of creatures. This deck had a lot of creatures to begin with. 39, I believe it started out with.
Jeez.
We are chopping just a little bit. I know we are counters matter, but some of these cards just don't do it for me. This first one, Brawn. Brawn is 3 and a green for a 3/3 creature incarnation. It's got trample. It says as long as Brawn is in your graveyard and you control a forest, creatures you control have trample. This really wants to be thrown to the graveyard immediately, but it doesn't do anything to help our counter deck. So Brawn
Yep.
is getting cut.
Yep.
Emergent Woodworm is 6 and a green for a 4/4 creature worm. It's got backup 3. And it says whenever this creature attacks, look at the top X cards of your library where X is its power. You may put a permanent card with mana value X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is still 7 mana for a 4/4 with a backup 3. I know you could put it on itself, so it could be a 7 mana for a 7/7, which is cool. Just a little expensive in my eyes, and yeah, there's a whiff potential there, which would not be great. And I feel like they always try to throw this card in every counter's mana deck, and every time they do, I always take it out. This is Enduring Scale Lord. Enduring Scale Lord is for a green and a white for a 4/4 creature dragon with flying. It says whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on another creature you control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Enduring Scale Lord. So, yeah, it gives itself counters. But for 6 mana for a 4/4 flying, it's just a little slow in my opinion.
Yeah, you have better options.
I do have better options.
What about some more creatures?
Yeah, more creatures coming out. Flame Crush Rider is 4 and a red for a 3/3 creature human warrior. It says whenever it attacks, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature that's tapped and attacking. Exile the token at the end of combat. It's got a dash cost of 2 and 2 red. If you don't remember, you can just dash it out. It gains haste and it goes back to the hand at the beginning of the next end step. Fun fact, whenever a token that's copy of another target creature, it doesn't get the counters that's on the creature. So you're making a token copy that's just the base power and toughness of the creature you're making. It's not that great. Mindless Automation is 4 generic mana for a 0/0 artifact creature construct. It says it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. It has another ability. We can pay 1, discard a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Mindless Automation, and you can remove 2 +1/+1 counters from Mindless Automation to draw a card. So it does have flexibility to draw cards, but it's also you want to discard cards to give itself counters, and I'm not into that. No thanks. Falcon Wrath Exterminator is another card that is getting the axe. It is 1 and a red for a 1/1 creature vampire archer. It says whenever Falcon Wrath Exterminator deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It also has an ability we can pay 2 and a red to deal damage to target creature equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on a Falcon Wrath Exterminator. So yeah, it is a 1/1 that has to deal damage to get 1/1 counters. So seems pretty likely it will die.
Yeah. And what about even more creatures?
Even more creatures. The last 4 creatures we're getting rid of is Triskelion. Triskelion is 6 generic mana for a 1/1 artifact creature construct. It says it enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. You can remove a +1/+1 counter from Triskelion to deal 1 damage to any target. So
Mm,
it's 6 mana for a 4/4 essentially, but you can remove the counters to ping something for 1. That's
it's like
not
a
doing it.
weird walking ballista. Weird.
Yeah, it's not doing it for me. It's out. Constable of the Realm. Constable of the Realm is 4 and a white for a 3/3 creature giant soldier. Got renowned 2, which means whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, if it isn't renowned, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and it becomes renowned. And whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Constable of the Realm, exile up to 1 other target non-land permanent until Constable of the Realm leaves the battlefield. So for 5 mana, you have to get this to deal damage to a player to get the 2 counters. And when you get the 2 counters, it then kind of is semi-removal. But once this dies, they get their stuff back. Nah, I don't want to do
Nah.
it. It's a reason it's uncommon. So let's get in the axe. Uh, Alheru Solemn Ritualist is 4 and a white for a 3/3 legendary creature human monk. Says when it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 other target creatures. Whenever a non-token creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. It's got an irrelevant partner. Um, so the only part about the counter thing is that when they die, you make spirits, which doesn't really work with the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really care about the 1/1 spirits when they die. I just don't want my stuff to die, and this is 5 mana for something that's kind of slow. So it's going away. And the final cut of the creatures is Wood Elves. Wood Elves is 2 and a green for a 1/1 creature elf scout. When it enters, you can search your library of 4s to put on the battlefield and shuffle. Real slow ramp. We've got other ramp you saw. I added a little bit more mana rocks. And also a mana dork. So 3 mana for a 1/1 that just gives me 1 land. Ain't it?
That ain't it, bro.
Mm-mm.
So those are all the creatures. You gonna be removing anything else from the deck, dude?
Absolutely got to make room for all my cool stuff I added. And all these decks, they come with planar cards. Planar, plane chase is pretty cool. Uh, I'm just not into it. So I have removed all of the information about plane chase in the deck. So these 3, they all talk about plane chase. They're all getting the axe. So Path to the Pyromancer is 4 and a red for a sorcery. It says discard all cards in your hand. Add a red for each card discarded this way. Then draw that many cards +1. It's also got Will of the Planeswalkers on it. It says starting with you, each player votes for Planeswalk or Chaos. If Planeswalk gets more votes, Planeswalk. If Chaos gets more vote, or the vote is tied, Chaos ensues, which is a plane chase text. So the ability for 5 mana to discard all cards in your hand, add red for each card discarded this way, and then draw that many cards. I feel like this isn't that great for 5 mana.
Yeah.
So just getting the axe just because of the plane chase. Also, getting the axe is Fractured Power Stone, 2 generic mana for an artifact. You can tap it to add a colorless, or you can tap it to roll a planar die, activate only as a sorcery. Guess what? I added in Talisman of Unity, which is a better mana rock. Another mana rock is Icor Elixir for 4 generic mana. It says if you would roll 1 or more planar dice, instead roll that many planar dice +1 and ignore 1. You can tap it to add 2 colorless mana. I'm also adding Felwar Stone, so that's cheaper and it can tap for colors. So we already have Soul Ring in the deck. This is 4 mana for something of an ability that I don't care about anymore.
And we still gotta make more room, man. What else are you getting rid of?
Yep, so I'm getting rid of some of these instants here that I am not a fan of. This is Heaven to Earth. The first part, Heaven, X and a green for an instant that says Heaven deals X damage to each creature with flying. The Earth part has got Aftermath, which means you can only cast it from your graveyard. It's X and 2 red for a sorcery that says Earth deals X damage to each creature without flying. Um, it's very not good.
Not good.
Yeah, just deal each creature with flying. What if all your opponent's stuff is on the floor? It does absolutely nothing. So, got to get it in the bin first. Return to nature, also getting the axe. 1 and a green for an instant. Choose 1. Destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, exile target card from a graveyard. I just want to do stuff that's different with my mana. So, return to nature is an okay card to destroy one thing. I'm just not doing it. Hinder Vines is 2 and a green for an instant. That says prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures with no +1/+1 counters on them. That's cool if your opponents are doing the thing where they don't have counters. But what if they are? Well, they're still getting in with the damage. So I'm getting rid of Hinder Vines. It's just a little too narrow for me. The other 2 cards I'm getting rid of is an artifact and an enchantment. Ion Storm is getting the axe. 2 and a red for an enchantment. You can pay 1 and a red. Remove a +1/+1 counter or a charge counter from a permanent you control. Ion Storm deals 2 damage to any target. Our deck doesn't make infinite mana, so removing counters that deal 2 damage, I just don't see it being that great. We want to add counters. We want our stuff to be big. So Ion Storm, getting the axe. Strionic Resonator, also getting the axe here, is 2 generic mana for an artifact. You can pay 2, tap it, copy target, triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Now, we can use this on our commander. It can be pretty cool if we're using it on the face commander, which is Bright Palm. If it was used on the face commander, that's pretty cool. You can double it, the counters. But we're using the other commander for this video. So Strionic Resonator is getting the axe. It's just a little too slow. And if we're using it on Shalai and Hallar, we're only just kind of doubling just 1 time damage. So going away.
And you added some new lands, so are you getting rid of any old lands?
I am getting rid of 4 lands. I added 3, so we are going down the land count just by 1, but don't worry, we still have 37 in total lands, which is plenty in this deck because we are just taking down the curve just a little bit, so we're going to be okay. The first land I'm getting rid of is Temple of the False God. I have never been a fan of this card. You can put it in the battlefield and it taps for 2 generic mana, but you can only activate it if you control 5 or more lands. Every time I play with a Precon deck that has this in it, I always draw this before my 5th land. Always. I always draw it, and it does absolutely nothing for me until I get that 5th land.
Great.
I know. Field of Ruin is in this deck for some reason. I don't know why. It is a land you can tap to add a colorless mana, and you can pay 2 to tap it to sacrifice Field of Ruin to destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. Each player searches their library for a basic land card, puts it on the battlefield, and shuffles. I don't know why this card is in the deck, especially because when you destroy your opponent's non-basic land, guess what? The entire table gets to go and get a land, which is wild. It's
Oh,
getting
is that
out
how
of
that
hand.
works?
Yeah, each player.
I just read. What the fuck? I thought it meant like.
When it's in standard,
Yeah,
yes,
that's true. That's true.
but when it's
Wow.
in EDH, the entire table goes and gets a land.
I have not realized that. Jeez.
Yep, Field of Ruin is not the best land destruction card in EDH at all. Bredegard's Stronghold is also getting cut here. It is a land that enters the battlefield tapped. I can add a green mana by tapping it, or I can pay a green 2 white to tap it, sacrifice Bredegard's Stronghold, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures you control. They gain vigilance and lifelink at end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. So that ability, I get it. It deals with our counter theme, but it is so slow. You've got to get rid of the land, and you only get lifelink vigilance at a turn. You only get a counter on 2 creatures,
Yeah.
and it comes in tapped. Pretty much the tap thing, it kills it for me.
I
Speaking of
feel that.
tapped, Croson Verge is also getting out of the deck. It enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it to add a colorless, and you can pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it, search your library for a forest and a plains, put them on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Just a bit too slow for me, so Croissant Verge. Getting out of the deck, the other cards we added are even better.
They certainly are, Hunter. And with that, are we done with your upgrade? This is it?
We are certainly done with the upgrade. That is all my additions. That is all my removals. So go out there and play with this deck.
Before they do that, hit me with it. You were at a budget of $100. What'd you get to?
All right. My budget was $100, and my total is $100.27.
Dude, that's perfect.
It is perfect. I hit it right on the head, man. I was pretty proud of myself.
Of course, we should say, as the time of this recording, all those new cards we've named off probably might come down a little bit.
Yeah, of course. At the time of recording, we are doing this before the set is actually released. I think it's pre-release weekend right now. So, yep, those prices will drop a little bit. So, total, it'll probably be just under $100.
Right on,
But yeah.
dude. Well, do you have anything else to tell the beautiful people? Because this deck is pretty mean.
Yeah, as far as a +1/+1 counter deck goes, I think this might be the best one they've done in a while, especially when it's 3 colors, so you get a little bit more flexibility. Shalai and Hallar, very cool, very different, being able to ping uh, opponents whenever you get those +1/+1 counters. We do have those infinite combos in the deck, just this card and another one. I know it's frowned upon in the community sometimes just to win the game on the spot with 2 cards. So that's why I'm saying you can swap it out for Bright Palm. Bright Palm is still a very, very cool commander, and getting those doubling up on the counters on a creature is pretty nuts.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, if you guys want to check out this awesome deck that Hunter put together, check the description down below. You'll find the Mox build link. Go ahead and maybe build up this list. Also, while you're down there, leave us a comment, or actually leave Hunter a comment, letting him know what you liked, what you didn't like. If you liked his ads, maybe he forgot something. You know, we're all trying to get better at what we're doing here. So drop us a comment. Let us know what you think. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked this video. And you also don't want to miss any future videos. Also, in the description, you'll find all of our social media, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. It's all going to be at Guys That Magic. So like us on all that stuff as well, boys and girls. And until the next upgrade video or any video, this is the Guys That Magic. I'll say bye.
Bye.